This is First and Ben.
What up, everybody? It's your boy Benji. Welcome back to episode 5 of my podcast, First and Ben. I want to thank you for tuning in today. Today is Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. We are now just over 2 weeks from Thanksgiving, and with that is the return of one of the greatest sports on the planet, college basketball, something we have not gotten to watch since March and the start of quarantine. I still remember getting ready to watch the Bonna's A10 tournament game when the first couple of conference tournament games began to cancel, starting with the Ivy League, and everything just went downhill from there. And honestly, I miss it, going back to the RC, going to the games, and just watching everything on TV. But in all honesty, nothing has been normal in 2020, and only time will tell when we'll be able to pack the arenas and stadiums again. If you haven't gotten the chance to make sure you click the links in the description or head over to my channel page to find any of the prior 4 podcast recordings in which I've gotten to talk to the likes of Malcolm Bell from the University of Hartford men's lacrosse team and Ben Berger from the baseball team here at St. Bonaventure University. And joining me today is a midfielder from Brookville, Maryland, where he was a captain for both the basketball and lacrosse teams at Sherwood. As a freshman for the Pioneers, he was named to the College Lacrosse All-Freshman Third-Team selection as a defensive midfielder and finished the shortened 2020 season second on the team for the Pios and caused turnovers with 6. When he's not on the field, you can find him getting buckets from time to time or showing off his bunnies on the basketball court. Still have to play him in ball, but he probably can't guard me in all honesty, if I'm keeping it real. But anyway, from the men's lacrosse team at Sacred Heart University, number 18, Donovan Lacey. Donovan, thanks for joining the time to join me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ben. Appreciate it.
Today's episode is going to be a good one as we're diving into a variety of topics, including growing up as a multi-sport athlete and how basketball really translates into the game of lacrosse, as Donovan and I both grew up playing the sport of basketball. The second topic is college basketball, like I started to go into in the beginning, and how everything is kind of turning and how it's going to work this year. Third topic, college football. It's been a crazy year already, and we're halfway through the season. Some teams just began this past week. The fourth topic is college sports versus high school sports, how the transition is into the Division I level, and just some of the similarities and differences between the two different levels of competition. And then finally, what have been some of the best and not so favorite places to play at as a collegiate and high school athlete. And also follow the Instagram accounts below, both mine and Donovan's. They're going to be linked also in the description. I post videos I make on my Garcia studios and different pictures I take, other content, including a preview to this episode. Go follow my personal Ben_Garcia3 and Donovan's the D Lacey. Enough with all that. Let's dive into today's episode. And the first topic, me and Donovan both play basketball. Donovan's got a brother playing college basketball right now. And growing up playing the sport of lacrosse, the game of basketball really helps and really translate both basketball and lacrosse, whether it's footwork, getting out an opponent under control, choppy feet. We have a drill called general drill where you want to get out and chop your feet. Don't let the offensive guy blow past you and all that different stuff. So Donovan, I just wanted to get your take on how has basketball really helped you and lacrosse both ways as you now play at the Division I level for lacrosse?
So I think what you said is definitely true. It helps with the footwork and all that. But I think it's also the basic principles, where it's like cutting through the lane. You got to work that basketball and lacrosse, getting up and out, playing that fast transition. And I think it's the fact that it's just like they're both so similar. And growing up, me playing both basketball and lacrosse, I was able to keep that same shape while I played. So it kind of translated to lacrosse field where the stuff I learned on the basketball court, I was able to kind of use on the lacrosse field as well.
Yeah, and definitely nowadays a lot of college coaches and just even high school coaches really emphasize, if you're in high school right now listening to this, play as many sports as you can, because the similarities and the translation of the games doesn't even have to be basketball and lacrosse, whether it's hockey, soccer, whatever it is. Just get out and play multiple sports, because in the end, athletes and kids who play more than one sport, in all honesty, are more likely to go to the next level and play than if you focus on one sport. And you see from time to time players that are ranked so high when they're in middle school and freshmen in high school, and they're all this and the 5-star recruits when they're 14 and committing when they haven't even taken a high school class yet. And they're so bought in on that one sport that everybody else has developed their athleticism and gotten faster and gotten more agile and everything, while they eventually will burn out because they just spend their life focused on whether it's just lacrosse or just soccer, and they never have the time to do anything else, meet the friends in the other sports, the relationships and everything. And then going off of the basketball lacrosse connection, people who are in the lacrosse world know who Pat Spencer is and how he won the Tewaaraton. For those who don't know, it's the Heisman of lacrosse, and the best player in the country wins the Tewaaraton award. And my question for you, Donovan, is if you could play, kind of like a brain picker, if you could play college basketball at any school, doesn't matter how good the team is or how bad, if you could pick one school and you got to be on the roster, what team would you pick?
Oh, definitely Syracuse, 100%. I feel like I would pick Syracuse because, like, growing up, both my parents went to Syracuse University. So I kind of grown up being, like, a Syracuse fan. And I just love Jim Boeheim. I love, like, that 2-3 zone he plays. And just, like, the overall atmosphere of the Carrier Dome, like, it doesn't get better than that, you know? Being able to play those big teams like Duke, Michigan State there, the old Big East days, I was always big at the Carrier Dome. So being able to be in that atmosphere, I feel like for me, would definitely be unreal to experience.
Yeah, have you ever gotten to go to a Syracuse game up there?
So I went to a Syracuse football game when I was younger, and that was pretty cool. But I'm still waiting for the chance to get to, like, a Syracuse basketball game there under Coach Boeheim.
Yeah, I got to go to one game at Syracuse when I was like probably 6th grade, 7th grade. We went up for like a travel basketball trip, and we got to sit behind the backboard. That place is crazy. So obviously the Carrier Dome is like so big and just so well known, and then
Yeah,
just
definitely.
take part of it for basketball and the amount of fans they pack into there, and what Jim Boeheim has done, again, that 2-3 zone is just like, I don't know how. I mean, I do, but at the same time, don't know how. It's
Yeah,
great.
I feel like it's a hit or miss with that 2-3 zone because, like, from one point of view, it'd be like it's actually a zone, but when you look at the way they play it, like those two down low guys, it's kind of like a man to man. So it's kind of like a stretch man to man in a way, and I feel like that is really easy to mess up an offense, and you have to change offensive game plan no matter what because anything they throw at you, you have to adapt to and change to. And that's what Boeheim is really good at, making the offense, adapt mid game.
Yeah, it's great. And then seeing Carmelo Anthony come out of that, he's really produced some big-time players out of that program. It's honestly a shame to see they've fallen off over the past few years, but they're never really out of it. They're always such a fun thing to watch.
Most definitely.
I would probably say for myself, if I had to pick a team, it would probably be ACC rival North Carolina. Growing up with my oldest brother going to UNC, going to some games down there, just became a big fan, and just the school spirit. And the same thing is at Syracuse, like the people who pack the dome. It's just so much fun. And then the atmosphere of those games, the ACC games, everybody is a big time recruit. You're playing against all NBA, like future Hall of Famers. So it's just be so much fun to play. And then for UNC, they got the UNC Duke game. That would just, for me, be so much fun.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, even like whether the game's home or away, being able to be a part of that UNC Duke game is just unreal. You get chills whether you play or not. Or like you just walk into the stadium or the arena and you're already getting chills. You're thinking about like, oh, like the calm before the storm, or like when the Cameron crazy is just going crazy. You can barely hear yourself think. Being in that situation, I think, is an athlete's dream.
Yeah, definitely. I can only imagine what it's like to be in that game 8 times over your career, maybe more if you play in the tournament. But definitely ACC basketball is unmatched. And as we go off of that into the next topic of discussion for today, number 2 is college basketball. And like I said before, we are 2 weeks from Thanksgiving, and the day before, the 25th, is the first official day of the tip-off of the college basketball season. Who knows what it's going to look like, because college football has been a mess in some areas, but has also done a good job regarding COVID and basketball being so much closer in contact, not having the equipment to back you up. So I know they're trying to develop bubbles, and I wrote down some. It's crazy how they've had to change some. The Cancun Challenge has been moved from Cancun to Melbourne, Florida. The Bad Boys Mowers Classic was originally Battle for Atlantis. I feel bad for whoever was supposed to go to Atlantis and is now stuck going to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And Maui Classic, being a Carolina fan, growing up, I still follow them from time to time, and seeing, instead of playing in Maui, now they just travel like an hour or two over to Asheville, North Carolina. Just wanted to get your thought on what should there be bubbles, where teams kind of stay there for a week or two and just kind of do the mini NBA bubbles?
So I think for college basketball, it's definitely doable, but there's certain things that's going to make it difficult. Where it's like a lot of big schools, they play like those small schools first. So if that had to happen, then those small schools have to be in that bubble as well. And I know a lot of small schools, might not have like the funds to like put their team in a bubble for that 2 week span just for a one game. And the fact that there's so many college basketball teams at the Division I level, it's hard for the NCAA to focus all their funding for multiple bubbles. Like I think if it was March Madness or like conference tournaments, then a bubble would be a great idea. You keep it at, where the Final Four is going to be, and you just have like a bubble kind of thing what the NBA did there. And you saw how successful that was with the COVID cases. So I think having a bubble during the season would be hard. I think the best thing coaches can do is just holding their players accountable for what they do off the court. You only have 2 to 4 hours with them every day, so the rest of those 20 to 22 hours, they're on their own. So you kind of just got to drill into their head that, like, if you do one thing wrong, it can mess up the whole season, So I think a lot of it's going to be on the coaches and also the players themselves on how much discipline they have and how bad they want to play.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all that. And that put a different perspective. I completely forgot about, the whole, if you have Stephen F. Austin or Kentucky basketball, and even just smaller schools, Vermont, like their budgets are going to be a lot different, considering John Calipari versus whoever the coach is for Vermont, Stephen F. Austin, Liberty, and just it's going to be too much for those small programs to put in the bubble for a week or two, missing class and everything. But yeah, definitely the whether it's conference play, the conference tournaments, and especially March Madness, if we're still having to be in bubbles, that would be a perfect opportunity to do that. And like you said, maybe hold like at the Final Four site or down at Disney again, where you can put the teams there, play multiple games in a day, and then if you lose, then you get sent home, and then that's whatever, like 32 less teams, and then 16 less teams that you have to control and watch out for and manage and do all of that down at the Final Four site or wherever. And then going off of that, for what the games will look like, is we've had discussions here within the athletic department, not the athletic department, just athletes discussing it. cardboard cutouts. You see it at professional games, whether it's the MLB, the NFL, anywhere. And what I thought would be a good idea if I was the athletic departments, since they're losing the revenue of admission into games and all the season ticket holders and the students, is you can do the cardboard cutouts and have the students even buy cardboard cutouts of themselves to kind of make it look like the students are there in the background behind the baskets. So I wanted to get your thought on cardboard cutouts and what they could do for students regarding these games.
No, I definitely agree with that. 'Cause I feel like cardboard cutouts would be a huge factor. Because I feel like for me, playing in like when I used to play basketball, like I didn't care who was in the gym. Like as long as I was playing, I was happy. But I feel like having those cardboard cutouts inside could be a huge factor and definitely beneficial to the players and the students as well. You know, kind of get a little source of revenue back from what they lost from March Madness and going forward. So I feel like the cardboard would be a huge beneficial to the athletic department, definitely.
Yeah, and going off like the March Madness, that definitely would be a huge thing because March Madness, the crowds are kind of what even obviously we love the upsets, we love the teams playing and everything, but the crowd reactions, watching on TV or even getting the chance. I got to go to first round freshman year when I was at Hartford, and although it wasn't exactly sold out, the way they did the ticketing was you can only buy it for the first two or the second two. And if you're in the arena and you also have tickets for the second two games, you had to leave the arena and come back in. But the games had already started, so the stadium was empty. But I think having cutouts would be fun. And then especially regarding March Madness, what are some of your what if you had to pick the top three March Madness moments, your favorite either upsets or whatever from recent March Madness, what would your top three be?
Top three, no order. I would say University of Chicago, Illinois, making it to the Final Four, and had that historic run where they beat like Miami, Kansas State. Number two, I would say, that's a good one. I would have to say UMBC upsetting Virginia first round because being from Maryland, seeing that small state school pull that off on national television, I think is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And number one, it's got to be Syracuse winning all 2003. That was definitely one of the best moments, and like they're still talked about in my house. We still have those DVDs where it's like you watch Syracuse's journey throughout the March Madness tournament. So I think those are definitely my top three.
Yeah, that UMBC game. I remember I put that down on my my bracket just as a joke.
And then it actually happened, and it was a blowout too. It was like 22, 23 points.
Yeah, they completely dominated UVA, and then UVA coming back the next year and winning it all right after getting upset. That was nuts. Like
You got to give credit to the coach there. Being able to rally from like that first round humiliating loss to winning at the national championship and having a few controversial calls. I think it was versus Auburn where Kyle guy had that corner three and the ref called the foul.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. It's just like being able to overcome adversity, I think, as a coach and as a player, as a college player. Because think about it, they're still our age dealing with that, level of intense. And I think you got to tip your hat to that. Not a lot of people can do that.
Yeah. The level of just intensity and the pressure on you, especially for a big time school. You have hundreds of basketball alumni, and then you have the thousands upon hundreds of thousands of fans and alumni, and you're between the age of 18 and 22, so you're still figuring out your life, and you're thrown on the biggest stage almost in the sport, having to compete for the national championship. And just hats off, to the UVA coach for being able to rally the guys back together, the ones who were there the year before. And in the first game, wondering what if we lose again as a one seed? What if this happens? And just keeping them mentally focused for the whole tournament, and especially in that game versus Auburn where things looked like it could go the other way and their season could fall short, and keeping them in there and getting that national championship down to Charlottesville. Just hats off to them. I would say probably some of my favorite moments, like top three. I would say one of them is UNC's bounce back in 2017 after the heartbreaker in 2016. That was horrific. I was speechless after that Villanova shot.
Yeah.
I was watching that game, some of it down at Villanova. So then when I knew I couldn't stay there for the end, I didn't want to for my own sake. Seeing that shot, it was horrible. Got ripped into for days. Number two, or one of the other ones, I would say the 2005 NCAA tournament in general. Again, UNC won, but there was Vermont upset, unfortunately, Syracuse. Bucknell upset Kansas. There was a lot of big-time moments from that. And number one, I would probably say one of them is Butler VCU, probably Butler's run in 2010, being like, I don't even know, 11 seed or something, like 6 seed, and making it all the way to the Final Four. And that last second shot from half court from Gordon Hayward that almost went in. Honestly, as a UNC fan, wish they could have made that to beat Duke. But still, that was a crazy run, and there's just nothing like March Madness.
No, and like you got to give credit. Going back to Butler, like I feel like they made it to the championship 2 years in a row, I believe.
Yeah, they made it
as a pretty high seed too. So like the journey they had to take, I think they had to go through the 2 seed because as like if they're a 10 seed, they go to the 2 seed, and like I forgot who it was then, but like I think just like their coach, who was it, Brad Stevens at the time.
Yeah.
I think he definitely but he taught a lot of mental toughness to that team, where it's like they made championship first year and then they had to bounce back, do the same exact thing the next year. Like I think that's just incredible, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. And rolling into our third topic today, college football. One of the things I'm going to talk about in this is just, again, such a crazy year. The top 25, looking at that right now, you have Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns at 25, Liberty's 22, Coastal Carolina's 15, SMU 19, Miami 9, BYU destroying everyone at 8, Indiana 10. It's just been – I don't even know how to comprehend each week and to, like, think who's going to win and who's not. One thing I got to bring up, probably going to be hard for you personally because I know of your girlfriend being a cheerleader at Virginia Tech and their rough incident this past weekend against Liberty. That was – I didn't see that happen, but I saw that game prior to that. For those who didn't get to see that, Virginia Tech was hosting number 25 Liberty, and Liberty had a 4th and 6 and lined up for a 59-yard field goal with 8 seconds left, in which they blocked the field goal and run it back as time expired for the game-winning touchdown, which is called back as the Virginia Tech coach, for some reason, iced the kicker for a 59-yard field goal when his career long was only 41 yards. So then Liberty went for it on 4th down, got the first down conversion with 2 seconds left, and then hit the game-winning field goal to win the game as time expired. But just to ask you, what have your thoughts been on this season with LSU? I don't know what's happened down there to these new powerhouse programs.
It's definitely been like a crazy year because like isn't the schedule where it's like you only can play teams in your conference unless you're like an independence. So I feel like that has a big, weigh in on the rankings. That's why you see like BYU up there and Liberty up there. Like granted, they're great programs, but if there was like a full schedule, then I don't think you would see like SMU breaking in at 19 or BYU or Indiana. But you still got to give credit to those schools that are still, playing and like shout out like Notre Dame. I watched that game when they beat Clemson. I think it was double overtime.
Mm-hmm.
With them being an independent, it's hard to for them to find a schedule, but they somehow do it. And like when they come to the stage, like versus Clemson, they took the stage and they shined bright. They did what they had to do. And I feel like for college teams like that, when you have that moment, you can't be phased. You can't fold because like that's like your one chance to move up in the rankings. And teams like Notre Dame and Liberty, that's what they're doing now. They're seeing all these big schools like lose, like Penn State losing to Maryland like last week. I was pretty happy about that, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you can't be phased in the moment, and like the moment you can't lose. You can't. What am I trying to say? You can't fold. You got to take it, and like once you take that, you got to keep going with it. That's what Notre Dame's doing right now. Give them credit to that.
Yeah, definitely, and it'll be interesting to see how, if next year things are returned to normal, where teams can play other teams in Liberty or SMU, if they play like a Michigan, Penn State, Maryland, and to see how that goes, if they'll maybe get the preseason ranking, and if they just return back to normal and get smacked in those big matchups. And one thing that I saw that was pretty funny was a game from October 31st. Oklahoma State, I don't know who they were playing. Don't have the article up, but whoever they were playing, I want to say it was like Texas Tech or Texas A&M. A few seconds left in the first half, and Oklahoma State, they have a video board up behind the goalpost, and whoever was running the video board put up a bunch of yellow lines to blend in the field goal posts, and I thought that was hilarious.
Is that even allowed? Is that allowed? I didn't think that was allowed.
That's what I thought. And when I was looking it up, trying to find if there was like some type of punishment, apparently there used to be a rule where once it hit 30 seconds on the shot clock, all music and the video board had to stop and just go to like the camera. And then a few years back, they relaxed it. I don't know what to, but I doubt that they were supposed to be allowed to put up like yellow lines. But I never saw anything of Oklahoma State getting fined. I think it's just the Big 12 said just don't do that anymore. But that would be, if I was a video control guy for maybe like a basketball game, there was a scoreboard, I would definitely try to do that.
Oh, 100%. Anything to help your team win in a situation like that, especially with COVID and like the crunch of the season. So like every game matters. I feel like you have to do what you have to do to get the W.
Yeah. And then rolling into topic number 4 tonight, 4 of 5, is college sports versus high school sports. So obviously everyone knows it's hard to get to the next level, to be a college athlete, and let alone a Division I level athlete. And with so few people getting to experience the student athlete life, it's just, me and Donovan were talking before this about how much of a grind it is, even with COVID now and before COVID. You got Monday morning conditioning, got to wake up at 5:15, get over to the facility, get to the locker room, change, and you're out on the field by 5:45, and then you're in conditioning, and then you get out, and then maybe you have a lift right after that at 6:30, and you get the lift done, and now you've got a conditioning lift, and it's not even 7 o'clock yet in the morning, and then you got maybe 3 classes, and then you got practice again, and then you got more classes, and you got study hall. And comparing that to the high school level, where you think as a high school athlete, just a high school student, it's long days. You get up 6:30, get over to school, you got 7-8 hours of school, and then you got practice. When in all honesty, it's not that bad compared to the college level, because college sports is so much about time management. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, 100%, definitely. Like for me, the transition from high school to college, it definitely hit me like a rock. And there was times where it's like, because like when you're in high school, like you have a set schedule, but in college it's like kind of for us, they picked our schedule for freshman year. So for me personally, I had a lot of freedom, and I kind of took that to my advantage, but then it kind of backfired on me. So then, like going into college, my time management sucked. My work ethic wasn't where it was supposed to be. And then my coach sat me down, kind of knocked some sense into me. And then after that, it was literally just a flip in the switch. Like for now, like during the season, it's like a set routine where it's like I'll wake up, I'll go to practice, shower, and then I'll do my recovery, and then I'll eat, I'll go to class, study hall, more recovery, and it's all just like a set schedule you have now that you have to stick with. Because like if you go off that schedule, then everything's gonna be screwed up. So I think for me, it's just having a set schedule and just going with that is key.
Yeah, definitely. Like it really teaches you a lot to just manage everything. And like we're talking about with the pressure for like the college basketball or college football athletes, they have like so much more, especially come game day, the pressure of being on national television and 110,000 people packing the stadium to watch you. And maybe just a few months ago, you were in high school, and now you've got 115,000 people judging you for the slightest mistake. And then just all of that, like management. And what makes college sports special, and like against high school sports, high school, you get to play for the pride of your town. You grow up with these kids that become your lifelong friends from kindergarten, and now you're playing high school basketball, high school football, high school lacrosse with them, and you're playing against the kids from the next town over that maybe you've had a rivalry with since you were little, and you just want to beat them every single time you play them. But in college, you're playing for a university in which thousands of kids attend there each year, and you got all these alumni who come back every year, and they've got their families, and they come back and talking about the memories. And high school, you play for you play for your league crown, your district, your state, and it's fun to be like the best team in the state. But college, haven't gotten to do it yet, but can only imagine what playing in an NCAA tournament game would be like. That it's just crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like going back to what you said about like everybody critiquing you, I feel like you have to have a level of mental toughness and a level of like, you can't be phased, because you see like these freshmen at Clemson where like a few months ago they were just graduating high school, and now they're playing in a big game at 8 p.m. on Saturday. It's like that mental focus and just that drive that they have. It's definitely tough, and like that's why you see a lot of college athletes where it's like they'll play for 1 year and they realize that playing a college sport wasn't really for them, or they just get burned out, as you talked about earlier. So I feel like every college student's different, but at the same time, we all have, kind of the same mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So much fun. Like you got game day, you look at your jersey and it says Sacred Heart or St. Bonaventure, and it's just like that school pride, and it's just, there's nothing like it.
No. Especially like in the locker room, maybe your music in, you're with your teammates, you got to go to war with our 50 best friends, and it's just like being in that mindset, getting mentally prepared to go on that field and just do what you got to do. There's no better feeling than that. And the same thing with you at St. Bonaventure, you're getting dialed in, you're getting that mental focus, that mental toughness for that 6 minutes of play, So for me personally, there's just really no better feeling than just throwing on that helmet and, going through that tunnel and playing that 60 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. And then transitioning into our final topic of the night is the best and not so great places to play, or that we've played at in our high school and college career so far. So we'll start with the worst. So in high school, were there any places that you played at, basketball or lacrosse, that you just absolutely hated playing, whether it was the students or just the stadium or court, or was there anywhere you just hated to play at?
Definitely basketball. There's definitely a lot of schools that not necessarily I had beef with, but it was just there was some tension in the air, and like every time we would go on the court, you would just not hear the students stop talking. Like for me, something that I used to go through was since probably sophomore, junior year of high school. I would always roll my shorts up pretty high. And I remember there was one game senior year where the cheerleader started chanting out like 22's got a big butt, and like for a little bit it kind of threw me off my game,
Yeah.
but I definitely bounced back, and that was definitely one of the places. It was Montgomery Blair High School. I remember it. That was definitely one of the games where it was like, okay, like I can't play here, and it's just like I feel like I don't know about you, but most of high school floors for courts were pretty bad. Like they're like it's like a slip and slide.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like from high school to college, it definitely gets better on where you play no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel that. Like my high school field at Springfield, I mean, because it's our field, we go on it like every week. But our stadium field was horrendous. I mean, there's just like holes everywhere, just like random bumps. My very first game there, junior year, I had sprained my knee because I went for a ground ball and my cleat got caught in like a patch, and then someone hit me from the side. I was like, how the hell do people play on this? And then that's when I learned that when you take like a shot, it's so patchy that I took a shot like 3/4, and it hit like a rock or something. It just went flying like almost backwards. And just obviously, if I was on any other team, I would absolutely hate it. But probably some of the schools I hate. This school in Virginia, we played my sophomore year lacrosse, St. Anne's Belfield.
Yeah.
We were playing there. We were tied in the fourth quarter or at some point, and it was raining the whole game, and all of a sudden the lightning alarm goes off. So we stopped playing, and they kept going. They shot, they scored, and they're like, oh, it's just a faulty system. If you hear it again, like stop, like you can keep playing. So then we did it again the next time, and then we went and scored, and we thought, okay, we were playing through the alarm, and they said no goal. We got to go inside. There's lightning. The lightning alarm went off. So that wiped out the goal. So we were down 1 with like 3 minutes left. Came back out, and they said because of that we got to do a face-off, and then we lost by 1 because of that. And for basketball, like you said, the slippery courts, like 3/4 of high schools have. Penn Charter in Philly, they made a new gym my sophomore year, I want to say, or freshman year, and the behind the baskets were probably about like 80 feet of just nothing. There was nothing behind the basket. So when you go to shoot, it just messes with your mind because you just see so much empty space that as a shooter, it throws you off. And then, but the sides, the fans are just right on the court. So if you go to throw in a pass, the students are right there, and they would always try to grab you, and they never called it. I just hated that.
Yeah, and so going back to like the fields and I'll touch on the basketball thing, but so in my county, a lot of the fields were grass fields, and there's only like a handful of turf fields. So in my county, every grass field was different, whether it was like really good grass, like artificial grass or Bermuda grass, but then you had other fields where it was just like you would have patches of dirt, you know. And I remember I was playing, I forgot who I was playing, it was my senior year, and their field was just like, it was a really bad grass field. And that was the game I like pulled my hamstring really bad. And I think if I was on like a turf or something like that, then that wouldn't have been an issue, because I feel like grass and turf have a different feel when you play. And like for me, I haven't played on grass since like May 2018. You know, I've been on turf since I got to college, and I just love the way turf is. You know, it gives more bounce with the knees, and I feel like it's just easier to play on, in my opinion. And then going back to the basketball one about the courts, I remember, so with us, it's like whenever a new school is built, the gym it is, they always have like brand new bleachers, like huge bleachers. So behind the court, it's like the bleachers are like 50, 60 feet away. So on one half, you have like this whole, you have like the walnut with the hoop. And then on the other side, you have like the hoop and you have like nothing around it. And like as you said, it throws you off like so much. I remember I had an air ball free throw on one of those hoops. So it definitely messes with the shot a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Those it just drove me crazy, and that's what like I was never much of a scorer, but when I would get my opportunity, I hated to shoot because they would leave me open, give me some space there, and I'm like, I know I'm not gonna make it, and then I would just get yelled at by the coach, like, take the shot. I'm like, I know I'm gonna miss. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna airball here, so I would pass it up.
Like the whole perception of it, just like unless you're gonna bank it in, which is hard on like a jump shot, like a 3-pointer,
Hmm.
then you're better off just like driving and dishing, in my opinion. And that's what I usually used to do, just drive and dish.
Yeah,
I wasn't really a shooter back in my day.
yeah. And then has there been any college plays that you've played at so far that you just absolutely hate, whether it's in the NEC or just like an out of conference place? Like, so either it's the field or just how it's set up or just something about it that you don't like playing at, or maybe it's students that show up.
I feel like every school that I played at, home or away, has been, pretty good. Probably one of the dopest places to play at was probably Georgetown my freshman year, just because like it's in like the heart of DC. So
Yeah,
being able to leave from like going from the hotel to like the stadium, which is huge because you got to see all of DC. But uh, every other turf that I played on has been pretty doable. Like I do what I have to do on the field. But maybe as like a goalie or as like an offensive midfielder, they might think differently just because like when you shoot the ball, every turf is different when you bounce the ball.
hmm,
So like some turfs are like bouncy, some are not that bouncy. And I feel like as a goalie or like offensive midfielder, you have to adapt really quickly.
yeah,
But for me, like my job is just, no one's gonna score on me, and
yeah,
helping the defense. So I think for me personally, all the fields I play on, I don't have an issue with. But if you ask like a omitter or a goalie, you might say something different.
yeah. Yeah, I see that. And switching to like a D mid this year, I probably won't have as much of an issue. Like last year, um, Bellarmine was their turf was kind of weird, and it was kind of similar to the basketball discussion. Like Bellarmine, one side, like when you look at the goal, like one side of the field has like the bleachers on running up the sideline. The other side where the bench is, it's just open space behind that and a road. So when you go to shoot on one end, you just see space and kind of the goal not necessarily blends in with the background, but there's nothing to really make the goal stand out. Like there's no maybe white wall where you can see like the orange pipes kind of stand out, and everything kind of like a little bit of deception. But yeah, probably going into the best places played at in high school, I would say for basketball, we went down to Charleston, South Carolina. So we got to play at the College of Charleston Arena, which is pretty dope. State championship for lacrosse. And then played 1 year of football, and we had a game versus this team from I think it was not West Catholic, Prep Charter, a charter school from downtown Philly. And we played at the South Philly Sports Complex, which was right across the street from the Eagles Stadium, Sixers Arena, and the Phillies Stadium. And there was a Phillies game going on at the same time. So we're just across the highway, only not even a mile across. And there was the game going on. And so you have in one end zone the whole stadium, and it's like lit up, and you see fans in there. And then when you're going the other way, you have the whole skyline of Philadelphia as you're in South Philly. That was pretty cool. And then college-wise, Denver was pretty cool just because of the history. And then playing our first game last year, which was my first college game, we played at the Buffalo Bills indoor facility. So that was pretty cool. Again, but it had like white backgrounds because of the whole, just the inside, which was hard to see the ball. But it was a pretty cool experience. What I know you said Georgetown, but any like places in high school or other places in college that have just been kind of like, whether it's a historic place or just always a fun atmosphere?
Definitely IMG Academy. So we always went to my club team always went to IMG Nationals, and being able to play like that main turf, like not turf field, but like that main like Bermuda grass field was just sick. Because it's like you had the palm trees around you, you're playing the sport you love, you're with like your boys, and for me, that was one of the years that we won it. We won the championship, and there was just no better feeling than that. You know, playing at a school like IMG, you know, being able to use the facilities, I think that was just pretty sick.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what IMG, like playing at IMG, must have been like. I mean, you look at all their $1 million facilities, and it's just absurd. Like, and that stadium looks crazy.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like the atmosphere there is just unreal, I would say.
Yeah. Well, that will wrap things up on today's episode. Again, make sure to follow all my social media and Donovan's. I'm going to have them in this description below. I'm going to have the links to everything else that you need to go check out. So thank you very much for tuning in today, and have a good day.